So today's video will be about me talking about certain questions that you may have for A levels as described in the title below, and certain maybe tips that I can give you regarding to how to survive your JC journey. So I'll be referring to my comm a lot because I actually kind of jotted down, I made points to certain parts that I wanted to talk about throughout this video, and I also sent out a form basically collecting responses from my peers on certain questions that they may have or had when they were in JC, and some of their responses to a certain list of questions that I actually gave them, and I'll be pasting their responses and etc. throughout the video, and hopefully this will be useful or help you throughout your JC journey if you are a J2 now or J1, or next year you're going to be a J1. I still think that it can be quite relevant, hopefully. But yeah, so this video won't have any subtitles at all because it's going to be quite long. So if you can't really catch anything, do just go back to the video and rewatch it, etc. Yeah, and I'll be talking about quite a few points in the video, so do note down in the description box below if you got any parts that you wish to look at directly and want to skip this part, skip that part. And this video is mostly I'll be talking about a certain number of J1 things, but mostly it'll be cover about J2 stuff. And I know because a lot of you are going to, or actually you have completed MCTs already and stuff, so some of you may be considering dropping from H2, 4H2 to 3H2 and 1H1, and I'll be giving you my thoughts about it, etc. Because for me, I also took H1 physics and I dropped in March, so I can kind of give you my 2 cents about it lah. So let's get started. Okay, the first question I have here is hybrid subject a hell combi as compared to the mainstream art and science combi? So basically this question I think is pretty common. Actually I didn't really thought of this question at the start because when I did the form, I already graduated. But then yeah, at that point in time, actually a lot of people were considering about whether the hybrid combi was a good combi or not. So personally my answer is no. So my subject combi is actually physics, geog, math and econs, so it's a physics hybrid combi. And to me it felt what most people think is that hybrid combis have horrible timetables and exam schedules wise is also one of the worst schedules, I would say. But personally my answer is no, for at least for EJC, that the school that I'm in. So my timetable is actually pretty nicely sorted out. The school actually will, firstly, if you're taking a certain combi, they'll consider how many people are taking this combi. So if a certain number of people actually hit the criteria, then you'll open up the combi for you lah. At least that's what EJ does. They're quite open with the combi selection process. You can even suggest combis, and if there's a certain number of people hit the combi, then they may consider accepting this combi as a legit combi. But for hybrid combi, for at least the physics hybrid so far, I think it's not really much of a difference as compared to a typical science stream combi's timetable. You'll probably end around 4 to 5 in J1 because you have PW, which is kind of normal. And unless you have H1 Chinese, which is towards the end of the day usually, or that is totally separate, I would say it doesn't really impact your timetable as a hybrid student. And okay, so you may think should I take hybrid combi or should I just go for PCME or the usual your Helm combi or arts combi? So what I think is you have to note a few things. For me, when I chose, I think number one you should know is what you plan to study in uni. So for me, I already know the course that I wanted to go. So I chose physics hybrid combi because I know that I do not require chem in any of my future uni courses. One of the things that I feel that you must do at the start is know what you want to do in the future, or what possible routes you might want to do in the future if you take a hybrid combi. So once you know about that one, then I think it was more what you are good at, I would say. Okay, but disclaimer, this is not really good advice, but I'll say take subjects that you're comfortable with. Because if certain subjects you really do not have like the, how to say, feel comfortable doing, then I won't suggest you taking that combi as part of your hybrid combi lah. Then also consult any like of your seniors to ask about how hybrid combi works, or whether it is like a good subject combi to take for them. And like definitely I think the most important is to definitely know what possible routes you may want to venture in the future, especially if you're going to university. If not, I would not really recommend you. For example, like I'll suggest you take more on the mainstream combis in case certain uni courses require you to take like chemistry, for example. So yeah, but actually hybrid combi is coming more and more popular like recently. Actually, I think it started from my batch or the 2 batches before. Like yeah, actually more people are taking up hybrid combis, and I don't think it's a bad thing, because hybrid combis, even though it may seem like you're not really arts, you're not really like science, but I think it just shows that it's just something that you know what you want to do. In a sense, like you know that I want to do physics, I want to do geog, I want to do econs. So it kind of gives you free rein on like, okay, not really free rein, but it kind of lets you know what you want to do, and you will feel more comfortable studying than doing. And instead for me, like for me, I cannot do chemistry, so I really like hated the word chemistry, or like seeing all the lines and what alcohols and all that bloody stuff and all that yeah. So no, chemistry just like no for me. So I took physics, and I took physics is mostly because it was like a backup, because certain courses needed physics. Then so I took physics as a backup, because my initial combi, which I wanted to go communication studies, did not need any sciences. You only needed math and GP. Yeah. So I think first is consider the courses that you want to be in, but actually hybrid combi nowadays is you can pretty much go quite a lot of places lah. Okay, so this question is econs hard as a totally new subject? Okay, this I don't think econs is totally hard as a new subject. Like in a sense, you can understand the concepts of like what econs is trying to teach you. For example, like if your demand falls, and then your price will also fall due to price adjustment process, which is just like if there's a lot of supply, then obviously people want to sell it cheap. So when we want to sell it cheap, the price falls, and then blah blah blah. All this is quite easy to understand, but I think one key thing about scoring in econs is key points. So certain stuff like price, for quantity demanded, all this stuff, keywords is the most important thing in econs, because the concepts itself is easy to grasp. In order for you to like do well in the subject, you need to have certain keywords or like frameworks. For me in like J1, I didn't really know what I was doing like with the essays and all, because I think because it was kind of foreign as well, so I didn't know how to write like econs essay. Like I really didn't know. So I was looking at like the samples, then I was also confused, like what is this? That yeah, it's totally normal to get confused, especially if you are J1 and just starting out in econs. I feel that by like the mid term, or like at least by term 3, you'll kind of see like a pattern, or like some of the like topics like market failure, they have certain guidelines for you to follow, which makes it quite easy for you to score in that subject if you are like careful enough and you manage to hit these keywords. So econs actually is about practice, knowing when you write and all that, it becomes like muscle memory, knowing like, oh, for when I write about this, I must have these certain keywords. So I think like that's the major issue about econs, or like why some of you can't be scoring well in econs. But as a new subject, I won't find it like hard in like J2. Like for me personally, maybe some of you not, but it's not hard as a new subject. Like it's easy to understand, but scoring can be difficult. So it's easy to understand, but it may be difficult to score because of like you may not have certain keywords, like price of what currency. So you must have that currency in order for you to score and make your entire essay coherent. So as a student, do I need to buy TYS or additional study resources? Okay, short answer to this is no. So actually for the school, they'll definitely ask you to buy like TYS and all. And actually, almost every subject asks you to buy TYS, unless like certain subjects like geography, they don't really have TYS, then you have to rely on prelim papers or like other school papers, which sometimes is actually quite useful as well. But definitely in J1, I wouldn't recommend you to get any of these books unless necessary, because in J1 usually they will those that in like populars they'll buy is topical, but what schools uses is actually the yearly ones, the year that goes by year. And so other resources I wouldn't think it's necessary to buy them, especially in J1 or J2, because schools will definitely be like giving you out a lot of papers, a lot of like additional notes, then asking you to like do this by every week. So you have like more than enough resources. Yeah, a lot of people say that TYS is super important and like there's a lot of resources given by the school. So I wouldn't think it's need for you to like buy any more like additional resources. Yeah. Okay, should I take up a CCA that do not require that much commitment? Okay, so my take on this question is that take up a CCA that you don't dread going to, because regardless of like what CCA you go, there is a certain level of commitment that you have to put in, regardless if you're an exco or a member, unless like you don't go for a CCA, which is a separate issue. But let's take a hypothetical situation that you are a good student and you go to your CCAs and like you show up for like almost every single session unless you are sick and all. So one of the things I suggest is do something that you want to do, and don't choose a CCA that so you can like totally bond the CCA and then just go and study, because I strongly feel that CCA is like maybe one of the more exciting parts for like JC life, at least for some of us maybe. Yeah, I'll just say enjoy and choose a CCA that even though the commitment level is quite high, like usually council, just like take up and like do it. All in all, actually everyone will have their certain level of commitments towards their CCA. So you won't be sort of like losing out in a sense when you take on a higher level commitment of CCA. So what I think a lot of people are facing trouble with is about like planning or like how to cope with like academics and like their CCA commitments lah. So I think that's one thing you should try and like figure out yourself, because every individual is like different. Kind of figure out like how to make that balance work out lah. In between like lessons, you know, you have breaks, rather than like to go and play or chit chat. Maybe you can like finish up some of your work or start on those commitments that you have, example like projects or anything. Use those like small gaps of time lah to help really work out your schedule and make it less hectic for you. And yeah, because you only have like CCA for like 1 year plus, I really suggest that you just go for it lah. Because in J1, if you don't go for it, then you won't really have like that much of an experience lah, from what I can provide you with. So this brings on to the next question is, should I strive to focus on non-academic activities in J1 and build a good portfolio and focus studying only in J2? So okay, I actually have quite a few like very strong responses from my friends here. So I'll actually just like mostly paste them here while I'm talking. Okay, maybe not. Maybe that's a bad idea. But okay, maybe I'll just like read out certain of them, because I think they have much better answers than what I actually came up with. But I'll also give my input on what I think about this issue. One of my friends, they say that actually like quite a few of them say that focusing studying in the start of J2 is not that good, because in J1 they actually focus quite a lot on the content itself and certain like basic foundation that you need. So by the time you reach J2, you'll mostly finish your entire syllabus by like the first term or the start of the second term. Then after that onwards, it's just like revision all the way. So if you cannot grasp that set of basic foundation at the start, right, you're gonna struggle a lot at the back when you're doing revision, because you may not know what is going on and it will just snowball lah. You'll end up like, even though in J1 you did a lot, but you cannot. Okay, number one thing is in J1, a lot of people just strive to pass, which I think is okay, but I think you must at least hit a bare minimum where you at least know academically you should know how much you know. Okay, wait, that's a bad way to phrase it. Let me rephrase that. So in J1, like academics wise, at least know the basics. Like you cannot just like at the end of the year you hit the just nice you hit the promotion criteria, then it's just like, ooh, that's done. But if you just hit right, I suggest you during the holidays really go and buck up on like or improve on your basics, because if not you're gonna really struggle a lot in J2, and if you didn't try hard enough you actually find it very hard to catch up. Yeah, in J1 it is important to have like a good portfolio, I'll say, but as what like, okay, so some people do a lot of activities in J1 to build portfolio lah, but personally I also don't think that if you want to do, don't do it for like portfolio per se, do it because you want to do it. Like, so one of my friends gave this response, is like, building portfolio is not the same as collecting points in a video game. It should be a story about you, like what you want to tell others. So if your strength is in like leadership, get involved in like student council, and if you're good in math, go for Olympiads and etc. So it should be about narrative of your life, which I totally agree. Because I know like certain individuals, they go like they do CCAs, or like they may take up council and another CCA as well, just for the sake of like portfolio and stuff, which I mean, if that suits them, then go for it lah. Like for me, I have kind of like street dance, which is a student interest group, and media as my main CCA. Like at the start, before that, right, I had like, because if you didn't get allocated CCA, we called like no CCA, so I didn't have any CCA then. When one of my friends asked me to join street dance, I was like really contemplating a lot on like whether if I could cope with it first. Like that was my main priority. I was not even thinking about portfolio. I was only thinking about whether I can cope with if I join this student interest group. Why not? I think it turned out okay, because like I didn't do like poorly for my academics and stuff. But yeah, I would say that definitely try and do as much things as you want in J1. Like key thing is not about building portfolio, but do something that you want. Because if you keep doing things that you will like, naturally your portfolio just builds up. So if you keep thinking about just doing for portfolio, like okay, it won't be going to my portfolio, I don't want to do it, then I don't think it is very enjoyable lah. Like it won't maximize that whole JC experience, you know. And like definitely if like people will have certain views about you, and that's a totally different issue. So like building portfolio is important, but building foundation for subject is just as important, which I totally agree, because I do see a lot of cases where, because in J1 they just keep like do all this, but then they totally neglect academics, and they just snowball. So definitely do things that you want, but also do keep up with your academics lah. To a certain level, you don't have to be like Dean's List and getting like 80, 90 rank points at the start. No, you don't have to. You just like maybe get like 50, 60, at least know what you're doing, or like know at least 90% or maybe 80 to 90% of the subject, or like the current syllabus that they're doing. If you have like any difficulty coping, then I suggest you like maybe drop one or two of those commitments and focus a bit more on academics. So I think that balance is like really important. So don't neglect on this balance. Even though like I'm encouraging you to do stuff that you should do in J1, don't neglect on academics. So okay lah, some of them do say that it's a good like way to distinguish yourself from other students, to help build experience is great for uni apps, but I still think that one thing is go for it, but don't do it for portfolio, do it something that because you enjoy doing and you want to do it. Okay, so from now on, it will be like a bit more J2 related-ish. Okay, so should I drop from 4 H2s to 3 H2s and 1 H1? Okay, so my personal take on this is do it if you know that you can drop it. Okay, what do I mean by that is, for my course that I'm taking, I know I didn't need physics, so I choose to drop physics. So definitely, if like you're deciding to go on like engineering or whatever that requires like H2 physics or something, then don't drop that subject. Like that's one thing to note, is sometimes when you drop, do consider like what consequences it may have on like uni course choices. So that's like the first thing to keep in mind. The second thing is if you don't feel very confident in like particular H2 subject. So you may think that dropping the H1, you can better cope with that subject because it has lesser topics and such. And I think it also like depends on the individual whether, because usually when they ask you to drop, it will be at the start of the year, then there'll be, which is like supposedly free, and then towards the middle and then towards the end. So you have like 3 dropping chances, but I suggest that you make the decision at the first part where they ask you to drop. So by the time, if you don't decide to drop by then, I don't suggest you dropping from then on, unless you really cannot keep up with the subject. So some of the responses here I have is, dropping the H1 is a difficult decision and should consider opinions of teachers, parents, and their own estimation abilities, which is totally true. This is 100% true. This one you need to know and really consult the teachers because they know your standard and what's best for you. And you shouldn't misuse the privilege for a lesser workload. That is totally true. But because for me, I take physics and geog and they always clash on the same day. By taking H1 physics, I actually was able to cope better for both subjects, and my both subjects did like improve because of me dropping down. So I think it really depends on individual, and some of them, yeah, depending on future paths, yeah, and scholarships. I think 4 H2s will definitely affect scholarships as compared to 3 H2s and 1 H1. Then if you can cope, no harm keeping. Yeah, and I have friends who took H1 math and you study less. Can be useful in studying other subjects, which I totally agree. Because if you take H1 subjects, firstly you will have more break times or more like so-called empty slots in your timetable. So you can use that time to study other subjects or like focus on other things that you need to do. So one thing is time-wise, you definitely have a lot more time. Not only lesser subjects, lesser content to study, but you definitely have more time to do many other things. So yeah, and if you want to consider drop early, as I said, by the first period where they ask you to drop, if you don't drop it, I will suggest like try not to drop at the too late the date lah. Because also, and if you drop at the middle of J2, I realized there's actually the March period of J2, there's actually kind of a benefit for you as compared to someone who dropped to H1 at the very start. Because certain of the H1 questions will require, and they'll take it from H2. So sometimes you may see them already in H2, but it may be quite unfamiliar to you in like the H1 like questions or syllabus. So it kind of gives you an edge, or like an edge over your like peers and all, because like you have seen this question before but your peers have not. So definitely have some H2 at the start, seeing the different question types and how they phrase questions will definitely be beneficial at a later date if you drop to a H2. Some of them feel like it's safer to take 4 H2s because you can choose which subject to take as your H1 in case you flunk any of the subjects, which I totally agree. But because for me, I already know that I was doing well in physics at the start, and I know that it may be my drawback in A level, so I decided to drop it first. So, but I think it really also depends on the individual whether it is suitable for them or not lah. So next question is how I don't have a habit for going for consultations, what should I do? So the first thing is definitely you have to start going for consultations, because consultations will be the savior of your life. At like the start, I also barely went for consultations, only like at the start when there was orientation because I was an OGL. So I went for consultations for Econs because it was like Econs and I think geog at the start. Yeah, because I feel that I need to catch on because it was like a lot of the basics and stuff. So consultations definitely will help you, but what if you do not have the habit? So one tip from a lot of my friends is like, if you don't have the time to go for like those face-to-face consultations, do like maybe do some work and then text your teacher, or like do a Google Docs and share with them and say like, oh, I wrote this essay, do you mind helping like give a comment on it, or like how can I improve, or like how is this and that. So if you just like do this type of simple like gestures and like tell a teacher to help you mark it all, then giving you feedback, it's already a step forward in improving. So take the initiative to like clear your doubts at the start early and like clarify questions like immediately instead of like just brushing them off at the side. And okay, habit of going for consultations does not guarantee improved academics, which is definitely true. The sessions didn't focus on your weaknesses and you're a mentally drained teacher. Because if you go for consultations, like maybe 5 consultations but you don't prepare anything, then there's almost no point in going for this consultation. So one of the comments I'm going to paste it here as well is quality over quantity. So if you go into consultations with no preparations and expect teacher to give you tuition, then there's really no point lah, because the session does not, because if you don't provide your teacher with any work, then they cannot give you feedback. Like, I think it's kind of common sense or logical, right? Like, if you have nothing, then you won't get anything in return. So if you're expecting a mentally drained teacher to know what to teach you after long day lessons, actually like no lah, because teachers, they really are very tired, because sometimes you're not the only one going for consultations. There may be like 3, 4, 5 other people having consultations just before you. So definitely consultations, you have to put in effort yourself and not just the teachers spoon feeding you with like feedback and answers. And also, yeah, if you really are like kind of scared, you can go for group consultations, which some of them are like, personally for me, I prefer one-to-one consultations because it can really focus on like stuff and you can ask questions and they can answer to you immediately. But sometimes peer like consultations can really help, because sometimes questions that you may not know that you actually didn't know. Okay, that sounded weird. Like some questions you never thought of, maybe asked by your peers, and you'll be like, oh, actually I never thought of this before, and you learn like something new together. But it all depends on individual lah. Like personally, I prefer one-to-one consultations. So another comment here is like, between exams it's more like doing essays as asking teachers to check and provide feedback, which is super important. And share your study plans as well. Yes, I think a lot of times it's like you need to work out with your teacher to know what you need to focus on. Like for example, for me in econs, I know that I was lacking in like time management for like my CSQ, which is like the one you look at the extract and then you write your answers. Yeah, I was quite having a lot of like time management issues on that one. So during lessons I actually asked to do like time practices for that, and then immediately just handing it up to my teacher, asking her to give feedback. So I think one thing is like these type of time practices, or like working out what is best for you, is definitely very, very important. And also, if you don't want to go for consult, you always can ask the teacher to mark and give feedback, which is like, yeah, you have to do your homework lah, basically. If you don't do it, then no point. Okay, so the next question is how to cope with your workload. So I think this one is how to cope with workload and tips for studying for A's. So I think definitely in like JC, a lot of people do not do their tutorials and stuff. And like for some of them, it kind of worked out, but I know for some of them, like if they don't like catch up with their tutorials, they'll find it very hard to catch on to what the teacher is saying, like for future lessons or tutorials. So definitely is you try, and even though you don't really like, sometimes you don't pay attention in lectures, because I know some of you don't, or like you just sleep in lectures, but try and like understand and read your notes after on your own time or during breaks, because definitely you need to still study and catch up somewhere. So don't totally neglect it, because definitely you'll regret it in the future lah. And yes, because I know some of them now you have online lectures, and online lectures, right, so you're OT, then you can like, oh, I think I'll watch the lecture tomorrow, oh, I think I watch the lecture like next week. But I feel that once you can clear them, just clear the lectures as much as possible, because if not, it's very hard. And yeah, staying back in school to study. Okay, so I think like it depends. Some of us like prefer to study alone, some like to prefer study with friends because it has like peer pressure and they will motivate you to study. So it all depends on like the individual lah. So okay, one of the responses I have here is, I'm just gonna paste it here. JC is way beyond just doing work, and there's also friendships, family to spend time with, and I think as you grow older, you'll know how to manage all these. CCA, friends, family, and all. No point just mugging every week. Look forward to each few things, plan your time properly, ensure you can finish your work. Yeah, so basically it's really about management and like how you plan your work. Basically, giving 100%, even though I know a lot of us don't, but do at least commit to like really catching up on your work lah. And this is like, I agree totally. JC has no homework per se. Like a lot of it is like up to you. You want to do it, then you will do it. If you don't do it, it's your own loss lah. Because sometimes the teachers now, even though some of the teachers may like nag at you a bit, but they really care about you lah. If you don't do your work, they cannot do anything about it also. So try and like enjoy JC, but also plan and manage your time properly lah. If one of the best ways is definitely to like do with your friends, or like maybe come with a study schedule. Like, hey, do you want to study econs with me today? Then you like do econs together. Then you will have like something done, you know. And doing with friends, maybe you'll find it more enjoyable. And you can immediately ask questions. For example, that friend, maybe he's good at like math, or like maybe he's better at GP. Then you can just ask him questions right on the spot, rather than like you pile up the questions just like, oh, this is so difficult, I don't want to do it. Then I'll just go and watch YouTube and stuff. Like, or you can like take down certain notes and then ask them on the next day. Like, it's definitely better to do something than not to do anything and then wait for it to pile up. Yeah, and like if you really cannot make it, just like don't push yourself and keep the phone off and in another room looking to your criticism. Yes, I feel that sometimes the phone is really distracting, which is why I prefer to study outside, because outside I will tend to use my phone less as compared to when I'm at home. If you want to do like preventing to touch your phone all the time, definitely you can go for the Forest app that everyone uses, study with friends, and etc. I'm not rich, but a lot of people, I don't know why after circuit breaker, everyone started to have like iPad Pro. Like, I don't know why. So like, if you are an iPad user, definitely iPad Plus. OneNote is like a lifesaver. You can like store everything. You can just do your work on it. Yeah. If you have, or you can even use the Windows one or a cheap tablet and stuff. But I think I will get one in uni. But for now, don't have the money. Practice, practice, practice. Definitely doing a lot. Yeah, I feel that also doing a lot is one of the ways to improve lah. To study for A's, because you may think doing a lot doesn't work, but actually when you do a lot, you see certain patterns. And like econs reading answer keys for essays, and the answering template for certain questions is pretty obvious. Yeah, so the more you do, actually the more you'll see certain patterns and stuff. And if you have any questions, you can like, for example for me, I actually like circle them. Like I write directly on the paper. Like I put a post-it note, then I'll write. So I remember what I wanted to ask, or like certain queries that I have. Then I'll just like pass it to my teacher or like ask them for consult. So consultations is important with your homework done. Then you can actually clear all your doubts. And once you clear all your doubts, right, you actually find that doing all this work will be simpler and you'll be more willing to do it. So like I know for some people it's like for math, because some of it is like you know how to do, then you get the very satisfying feeling of knowing how to do it. Yeah, so at the start for like certain subjects, so like example econs, if you're stuck doing it, just keep doing, and then you slowly get used to it and you want to do it, which ends up you will improve eventually. And I can't remember who posted this, but this is a pretty good analogy, I guess. Like, yeah, Michael Jordan and the A's is the NBA finals. They practice with intent. It becomes like a layup. So you know, like you lay up and like you writing and stuff. It's like almost the same. Every practice at the end of the day helps you like overcome obstacles to getting to finals lah. So, some people cannot study with music, but some of us like can. So it all really depends on individual. But if you realize that the music is like distracting you and you're always like sing to it a lot, then off that music. Consistency is key. Just the papers and put any question. Yeah, just keep doing. Like for me, GP, right? I don't know how, but I just keep doing one like compre a day, and I think I wrote like a certain question types on top, and then I slowly feel that it was easier to do compre lah. So just keep doing. Actually, just keep doing. Okay, from here on, it'll be about specific subjects that you want that I'll be talking about in JC and like tips for them. So you can just hit the description box below if you are like you don't take this subject, you want to skip it. But I'll mainly be talking about H1 Physics, H2 Geography, H2 Econs, H2 Math. Yeah, these 4 will be my more mainstream because I take these subjects, and the others I'll just be basing off what people have told me throughout the Google Forms that I've given them. So let's go. Okay, the first thing is for math is just to practice, which is 100% true. So math, I feel that concept-wise, you have to have a certain level of understanding. Because if you don't understand certain stuff, right, if you're just like copying, right, sometimes on the more trickier type of questions, you cannot see them. For example, the variable separable questions, which is like, you cannot differentiate with in terms of y, because currently it's in terms of x and stuff. You need to know when to spot these type of things. Or like for functions, you should know like the domain of f is actually the range of f inverse and all that. So certain concepts you definitely need to know, but math is practice. If you practice, then when you apply these concepts, you'll get used to them and you'll kind of know when to use them. Because not a lot of them, like I feel they don't know when to use it. Or like they cannot see that this concept is this concept that you have to use. Like they'll see an oval, but they don't know they don't know which piece to fit in. They don't know whether it's the triangle or the circle or the square, Yeah, so one thing, math is just like practice. Like really practice. So comments here says like some papers and all. Basically that's all for math lah. It's just keep doing, and like you'll realize that the TYS papers are pretty easy, which I totally agree. So challenge yourself and actually do more prelim papers, because like schools will definitely give you like prelim booklets and all. You can do the TYS, which I feel that you shouldn't touch it because your teachers will be going through them in school, but do all of the extra prelim papers that the teachers will definitely give you, because those are the more trickier ones and they'll really tweak your like thinking and know when to apply certain formula. Okay, next I'm moving on is geography. So geography, one thing to note that is different from secondary school is memorize will lead to failure. Like never memorize and just copy paste. You must memorize and also evaluate. So one thing in H2 geography you have to have is something called synoptic link. So one thing is always refer to your rubrics, the H2 geography rubrics or syllabus, which like, because synoptic link is like, if you know, I'm assuming that everyone's watching this takes geography. So in team 1, like your ATMO team 1, you must, if it's a team 1 essay, in order to score higher for your 20-mark essay or break that 12 or 13 mark, right, is you need to link it with other teams. So for example, like if you're talking about ATMO, then maybe ENSO or stuff, then you maybe can talk about like climate change, which is a team 3.1 topic. So this, you just link it. You don't need to have a whole paragraph on it, but just briefly talk about climate change and human impacts. You can already try and break that 12 to 30 marks, rather than you just write an essay purely about insulation, then the Hadley cell shift, then now there's ENSO and La Nina, Yeah, so definitely have synoptic links, that's one. Always refer to your rubrics. And number 2 is evaluate. So nowadays geography is like you have to evaluate rather than just like stating like describing how the Hadley cell works and all. Like definitely refer to certain essay samples that your friend may have or like the school will have given you and stuff. But really it's like you have to keep thinking why or what happens next, and don't just give like a description. Like I know saying this seems very hard, but yeah, just try and look at other peers and like keep thinking what did they do better. Don't just keep describing, like evaluate. So for example in like team 2.2 on so like for example, I'm just gonna paste it here. I think it's quite small, I don't know when I'm gonna edit it. But so it's like assess the extent which resource-curse disease helps in understanding underperformance of resource-rich countries. So definitely you have to define your intro, like what is the resource-curse disease, which is high levels of economic development may not translate to high levels of resource endowment does not necessarily lead to high levels of development and stuff, which is your basic intro and stuff. Then you talk about resource curse explains how despite the resource-rich nature and of extractive industries and then and all. So definitely one thing to note in geography essays is your first statement cannot be just like resource curse disease states that they will lead to the economy falling or economy failing. Oh my god, what's wrong with me? Like that is a very 1D statement. You need to like explain that as like a why as your first topic sentence. So example, the one I wrote here is resource curse explains how resource-rich countries are underperforming both economically and socially despite being resource-rich. Due to, so this behind part is important. Due to nature of extractive industries being capital intensive, thus leading to minimal benefits being reaped by local economy through a negative multiplier effect. So I know I wrote a bit lengthy here, which I know it's very hard to read. So yeah, don't copy this, but it must have that sort of nature when you're starting off your essays. Like, don't just be descriptive, add that second layer of description, especially for your first statement. Because this is the first part that examiners will read and catch, which plus after that, you'll follow on and it'll help you on. So do a lot of the, I can't remember what you call it, all those hence, therefores, those signs, signposting. You need signposting. Signposting is really important, so a lot of the hence, therefore, moreover, using all these helps to build your arguments in different layers. So definitely expand on explanation and not descriptive. So don't just say what TNCs are, what the resource curves are, don't. Explain more on like consequences, the details, and so on and so forth. For geography GI, definitely there are certain, it's actually quite standard. So if you follow, like, my school actually gave this deck of slides which was really useful on like what to do if you see questions like how to improve or like reliability and accuracy kind of questions, like certain points on whether to use a dual ring infiltrometer and stuff. Like, I think your school will tell you, and especially if you keep doing, and if you refer to, actually there's like some geographies like stuff online that you can actually refer to. Just take a look at those answer keys. You'll realize that they're kind of the same, and then you just take down certain notes of it. Then when it comes to exam, you'll know when to replicate it. So next, I'm moving on to is econs, which I actually talked about a little earlier in like the video. So in case you skip that part, one thing I say econs is definitely concept-wise not that challenging. It's just certain keywords you need to grasp. Like for like, especially for macro, for example, the price of the goods fall. Price of what? So price in terms of SGD currency will fall. Then you need to have that SGD currency. So certain keywords. Or like demand is elastic. Or price inelastic. The fall in quantity. Like you have to have these certain few keywords. Definitely keywords are definitely important. Or like market failure, we must describe what is the market failure in terms of monetary costs. So you cannot say like I can't remember an example though, but let me just, yeah, you must state. Okay, so for econs, like the market failure one, you need to talk about how does the market fails in terms of monetary costs. So you can say like, for example, like higher hospital bills. So it must have some end with the monetary cost. So econs is just about keywords. Sorry for the econs part because I have not revised econs in a very long time. But yeah, you must have certain keywords for econs. So one tip I can give you is keep doing. Just keep doing, and then you send your essays to teachers. They'll definitely catch on certain keywords that you missed out. So always, I would say just have a Google Docs and then take note of all the essays that you've done. Then I wouldn't change the new essay. I will leave the old essay there. I'll add in green certain parts that I missed. So when I go back and read it, I'll know that I missed out these parts, I missed out that part. And also, it will definitely help you in understanding that, oh, I always miss out on the word price when I'm writing about quantity demanded, something like that. Or like I always, for the one on market structure, I always missed out on my like P equals to MC when I'm talking about allocative efficiency. So certain parts, right, you can just like keep doing and then like grasp onto it. Okay, so from what I have here, yeah, so like some people say econs is just practice, clarify a lot, get a clear structure. Yes, econs really is just about doing practice and like getting those keywords that you know. Once you know those keywords that you have to look out for, econs is, you can score. So as I said, econs is concept-wise not difficult, but it's hard to score. But once you get those keywords to scoring, you can score it. So I'll be moving on to have I covered H1 physics? Okay, so I'm gonna do H1 physics. So it's not H2, so disclaimer is H1. So H1 physics, definitely your content wise is definitely cut by half. One thing for sure, you have no practicals, you have no paper 3. Time wise, you literally cut by half, content wise also cut by half. So one thing is physics, basics down, you already score. Cause one thing I realized in like my teacher really helped me a lot in understanding like the basics and all, like for kinematics, right, you can just keep doing, and like for certain how to see internal and external forces, once you know all this stuff, right, H1 physics is really just applying formula. Although some people may say like H1 physics is more difficult, or it's like H4 physics, like one teacher was doing that, but yeah, and like it really isn't though. Like I don't think so. It's just a lot of formula applying, and like once you're able to, you do a lot of practice, you can see it like actually, especially for like the harder topics that H1 physics people always struggle to see is like forces and like electricity, these two topics. Because for like us, if you go refer to the H1 syllabus document, we don't like have superposition and all, and for like the we don't have G field actually, we just use the mm over r squared. We only use that one formula, and we don't have to care about the negative and all, like whether it's an external force pushing or you're going away and stuff. It's a lot more simpler actually for H1 physics. Yeah, so okay, from here on, it's just gonna be a lot of me pasting the comments and like talking about certain subjects that are in general that I don't really take. But first off is GP. I can't give much on GP because I can tell you first, I barely improved for the past like 3 years. Yeah, so one of it is definitely it's like a lot of people do a lot of like points and like example banks and like your wheelhouse topics. Like for me, right, I always go to the KS Bull. I think you can find it online, like the RIKS Bull and stuff. Like basically the people who wrote those essays are like big brain man. Like I don't even have those knowledge at all, and like the level of English is like whoa. So this of course like it'll help you for those who are already quite good in GP. But yeah, so it hinges on the fact that you have a wide variety of depth of knowledge lah. And if you don't have it, it's like really hard. So I would just say just go and read like a lot of newspapers, and like I would say like just have like the Straits Times app. I feel that I get very intrigued in reading, especially when the headlines is like very exciting. Because sometimes all these like you never know this type of 八卦新闻, right, will actually help and really useful, especially for like AQ. Like I know for my batch, it came out like apology and stuff. Then it came out like Dkosh, like Eden Ang and all that. So a lot of people use these examples like famous people that you kind of know but supposedly not important. But definitely you have to build on like certain example banks. So I'll suggest like do wheelhouse topics. So for me, my wheelhouse topic is definitely environment because I take geography, and I also did like sports and media. So have like certain topics in mind that are your strongest, and then like work on those. Like, but definitely do try other subjects, like at least other topics. You do like mind maps or like just do like brainstorming of ideas with your class. I think the teachers will definitely go through on this, but doing so, it may save you. Certain times we see a question that is familiar and all, then yeah, it may help you in case that your wheelhouse topics do not come up. Okay, so moving on, from late, apparently it says make sure you know your text inside out and revise them. Don't leave until like the ones from last year to now. And seniors notes are quite useful because they are mostly ideas in terms of essay plans and analysis with your friends. Discuss a lot about, so basically from what I get from late is basically just do a lot of like mind maps and like annotate your poems and all, and definitely ask your teachers. So definitely for the sciences, what I'm just getting is struggling, just go ask for help, just spam your TYS, especially for like chem. That's literally what I'm getting over here. And for history, it's mugging content, essay structures, and know your timelines very well. Yeah, that's all. I'm just getting it. Sciences, just keep doing questions and all. Yeah, the teachers will always help you, definitely for sure. Yeah, so I think that's about it because I really do not know a lot about other subjects like translation and all. Yeah, so I guess that's about it. Let's come to the end of the video. I know some parts I may be rushing and all because I recorded this for like don't know how long already. So hopefully it provides some useful tips for you. If you have any other like queries or like wanna ask me stuff, you can just like drop in the comments below and I'll answer them. Like be legit questions. Then I'll answer them to you. Like really legit questions, because I know some of you like at this point in time it's just after March hauls and you have a lot of questions that you want to think of and all, and I may have forgotten to cover in the video, so do drop a message down below and hopefully I get good like questions instead of like troll messages. So bye.